On today's video, we'll be working on a washing machine that's not working. When you get a call from the tenant and they tell you that the washing machine is not working, you want to try to get as much detail as possible from the tenant, and this will help you isolate the issue. You want to ask, when you have your lid down, does your washing machine work? If they say no, then you know it's going to be an issue with your lid switch. Are the clothes agitating? If they say no, it's not agitating, the washer works, but it's not agitating, it just keeps spinning, that's going to be the agitator dogs that are inside this base right here. Specifically with this problem is when the washing machine fills up with water and it's supposed to go into its wash cycle, the tub should be turning. You'll see that it just sits there, but I could hear the motor running. So at this point, I know that the issue is going to be somewhere in between the agitator base and the actual motor. Right now, I have the washing machine on the medium load, and I'm basically going to turn on the washing machine. And you're going to hear it's going to fill up, and once it fills up, you'll hear the motor turning on, but you won't see anything going on inside of the washing machine itself. So I could hear the motor running. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a screwdriver here in this socket, and that's basically going to bypass my lid switch and allow me to work on the washing machine. And now I'm going to pull the switch open. And you can see here right now, you see the water vibrating from the motor, but there's nothing going on other than that. Start working on it. You're going to close your lid switch, you're going to turn the washing machine off, and then you're going to unplug it. Now we're going to remove our screws that secure the panel. Remove the screws from both sides. What we're going to do is, once you remove those two screws, the base is basically going to pop up and over like this. Now on top, you're going to see there's two brackets. You're going to take your flathead screwdriver and you're going to put it inside the groove and pop these out. Your screwdriver is going to go inside like this, and then you're going to pop it up. Now we're going to disconnect the lid switch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to remove the outer cover of the washing machine. So you're going to open up the lid switch, keep your hand on the lid switch. You don't want it to fall down and hit your fingers. And then with your other hand, you're going to go underneath the cover of the washing machine, and you're going to gently wiggle it and pull it out towards you at the same time. Now we're going to remove the washer pump, and basically just have those two brackets securing it. We're going to pop those brackets and we're going to remove the washer pump. Flathead screwdriver just goes under the bracket and basically it just pops out. If the bracket does fall out, don't panic. Basically the way it goes back in is you slide it inside and then you just twist it and that'll resecure it. But for right now, we're going to remove it. Now behind this motor, there's going to be what's called a motor coupler. And basically what that is, it's going to be a rubber gasket with two plastic clips. And this is what actually will one side will go into your motor and the other side will go to the transmission that actually turns the tub when it's being used. And what happens a lot of times is two things I see often is, number one, it'll crack somewhere in one of these areas, and when it cracks, it no longer has the friction or the ability to adhere, and it basically, when the shaft turns, when it's told to on its cycle, it won't grab it. And the second thing I see is on these newer ones, you can see in the inside where the shaft goes, there's starting to come like a metal casing that goes inside of there. What's happening on the older ones, they were actually plastic, and what happens is over time, due to wear or heat, it'll actually start to just no longer sit in that groove, and that will cause slipping on the motor. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and remove the two clips that secure the motor. You'll basically need a screwdriver, and you're going to remove this. There's one on top and there's one on the bottom, so go ahead and remove both. Now we're going to remove our harness that ties into the motor, and basically you just push this clip and it basically pops out. Again, as I said earlier in the video, just make sure everything is unplugged and there's no power going to the washing machine. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually remove these two clips that go to the motor, and we're going to do the same thing we did with the washer pump. We're basically going to take our screwdriver, our flathead screwdriver, we're going to pop it off on both ends. Once you remove both clips, go ahead and move the motor. If you were using your motor, it may be hot, so be careful. So go ahead and move the motor to the side. And be careful not to tug too much. There are two wires, two terminals that tie into the capacitor. You can see here already, this is the old coupler right here. You can see it broke off. And this is what actually goes on to this end of the shaft right here. And then this is the other portion, the gasket, and the other end of the clip. You can see here, as I was saying earlier, on these older ones, it's basically just plastic, and you can see the shaving of the actual dirt from the gasket. And you can see even little marks from the shaft, whereas the new one is metal, and this will actually help to prolong the life of your motor coupler. Now we're going to move the other portion. Basically just pulls right out. Now this is where it gets a little bit more technical. So basically I'm going to take the new one, I'm going to put it on the shaft that goes to the tub. And you don't just want to sit it in there, it actually has to go in flush. Now there's going to be obviously some tension when you're doing that. So what I like to do is I have this little plastic that goes around the shaft. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly tap it until it goes in flush. You don't have to be too abrasive with it, just take your time. You can see here it's slowly going in. If you're too abrasive, you will end up cracking it. That's why I use this little plastic tube. Just put it on the tip, and then I'll take my hammer and slowly work it in. So now we're nice and flush. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our gasket in and just push it in. Make sure it's nice and flush as well. We're going to connect our other end of our coupler to the shaft of the motor. You can see here it's not flush, and I'll just show you how I did it under here so you can kind of get an idea. What I do is I take this and then I just take my hammer and I slightly tap it in. If you don't have this, I've seen people where they put a piece of wood that slides in between there, nothing too thick, and they slightly work it, or even if you're careful, just using a screwdriver and slowly tapping it in, and you can see here that it's nice and flush. Now the most difficult part of this is going to be actually putting the motor back in, because this has to line up with your gasket inside of here. So the way that I do that is I make sure when I line it up, so I know the capacitor is going to be on the right side. What I do is I'll line it up so I know this is the top, and then I'll make sure that the gasket over here, the groove is on top, and sometimes you kind of have to slightly work it. Now what I'm going to do is, you see here the bracket fell off. We're going to put the bracket in, and then we're going to go ahead and put the motor back in. See here, basically going sideways, and then once you're in, you basically lift it up and rotate it. Now, as I said, this is going to be the trickiest part of installing your motor. Make sure that the top bracket doesn't get in your way. Basically what I'm doing right now is I'm holding the motor at the bottom and I'm rotating the shaft. I'm trying to work it to get inside the gasket. Once it gets inside that gasket and I feel it go in, I'm going to take this top clip and I'm going to secure it and hold it like that. Go ahead and attach your bottom bracket that attaches to your motor. Now we're going to put our screws back in to re-secure it. Once you secure both brackets, what you want to do is put your washer pump. Just make sure that the shaft is in the same direction as your washer pump. You may have to wiggle it on there. You see it's nice and secure. Now we're going to put our two brackets back in. Again, just going straight into the groove and then twist it and do the same thing for the bottom. Once you have them both secure, you're going to take your electrical harness and you're going to plug it back in. At this point, we're ready to put our cover back onto the washing machine. And as I said, just be gentle, make sure you hold it properly. Sliding your cover back on, if you see here in front of the washer pump, that lip will go underneath the frame. However, on the sides will go over the frame. So the front, this lip, will go underneath that frame, and on the side, that lip will go on top of the frame. On top of the frame and just slide on top of it. Now we're going to put our two clips back on. And basically you're just putting it back in underneath and then you're pushing down. Reattach your washer lid switch. This is your front view. And flip your control panel back down. Make sure it's just nice and flush. Go ahead and re-secure your screws on both sides. Plug your washing machine back in. Now when you turn it back on, you should hear your agitator agitating the water. And again, you can see here, I opened the washing machine. I put my screwdriver on the lid switch. If you don't have something engaging the lid switch, it's not going to run. So just make sure you have a screwdriver holding that lid switch down. So you can see here, the washing machine is working. You can see here, I put it on the spin cycle and the tub is moving. If this video was a help, please subscribe.